Hi everyone, welcome to my Wandavision episode 5 breakdown. Spoilers if you've not seen episode 5 already, go and check that out first and then come back here. Also, I've done breakdowns of episodes 1, 2, 3 and 4, so they're on my channel if you want to check those out too. First of all, what an insane episode. There are a million moments I could break down, but I'm just going to focus on the ones that caught my eye the most. So the first thing I noticed is that they actually changed what Wanda said in the recap. In the original episode, Wanda said that Monica had to rush home, but in this recap, in our aspect ratio, Wanda actually says that Monica doesn't belong there. Because this second version was in our aspect ratio, it's more likely what actually happened. Then we see Wanda try to use her magic to stop Billy and Tommy from crying, but it doesn't work. So does this mean that the children are being controlled by somebody else if Wanda can't control them? Wanda also seems genuinely confused at why the twins won't do what she wants. But it's established later in the episode that the twins are real children rather than people who have been hijacked. Also, Vision misses her saying this because he's conveniently using the dummies as noise cancellers. The only time the babies stop crying is when Agnes tries to reset the scene.
Should we just take it from the top?
It's almost as if Agnes has more control over them than Wanda, which links them back to being parts of Mephisto who are being controlled by Agnes. Wanda also seems more concerned that Vision saw Agnes break character than actually confused about Agnes breaking character in the first place. So she tries to convince Vision that he's just seeing things. That implies that she's more aware of what Agnes is doing than she's really letting on at this point. Then Agnes sprays the children with what she says is lavender, but to me, lavender would be purple and what she's spraying is green. Once the kids age up, not only does Agnes not bat an eyelid, which is very weird, but she also says, you can't control them no matter how hard you try. This is a reflection on Wanda's total lack of power over the children, but also might explain why there are no other children in the town if, for some reason, you can't control them. Then we get the intro song, which was full of little references, but particularly the line, which to me reflects on how Wanda is just totally making up this world to reflect on what Vision is thinking at the time. We then see Monica Rambeau reflecting on the grief of what it felt like to be inside Wanda's head. Remember, at this point, she would have also been grieving for her mother, having realised that she died a few years ago. So maybe this is why Wanda trusted her. Her MRI is blank and her blood draws come up inconclusive. This could be our first indication that Monica has gained superpowers. Being blasted with that level of radiation could have given her the powers of Photon, or more likely, because her mum Maria was also known as Photon, the powers of Spectrum. Now we get director Hayward proving himself to be a total terrorist. When he first came in, something didn't feel quite right. I think what I really didn't like at the beginning was the idea of a white man coming in and taking over a black woman's business that she'd built from the ground up. Maria had worked so hard to build this, and he came in and completely changed the strategy straight away. This is probably why they only started experimenting on the Vision's body more recently, rather than after the first snap when Maria would have still been in charge. They categorically deny that Wanda has any aliases, which kind of summarises the fact that she's never been called the Scarlet Witch in the MCU, but also frames it for us to hear that name for the first time. It's possible that they're going to use Scarlet Witch as her villain name. SWORD were keeping Vision's body at their HQ, which we theorised last week. Despite the fact Wanda would have been really angry and upset to see them experimenting on Vision, she didn't actually hurt anybody, she just stole the body and left. Vision never wanted to be a weapon, so is it possible that Wanda stole him back to protect him from that? Was SWORD trying to weaponize him without the Mind Stone? Everyone at SWORD calls him the Vision, which is a reflection of them thinking about him as just an object, rather than Vision being his actual name. Vision starts to realise that Agnes is way too involved in their lives. She seems to pop up at every convenient moment. Wanda is willing to do magic in front of her, which feels really discordant with how she set up this whole alternate world in the first place. Especially when immediately afterwards we see the boys age up in front of Agnes again. Sparky is the name of Vision's dog in the comics, but normally he's a synthezoid rather than an actual dog. But for the storyline to work, Sparky in this reality had to be a real dog so that he could die. Now we're back with the Dream Team, Jimmy, Darcy and Monica. We see Monica mention an aerospace engineer who would be up to the challenge of making a machine which would allow her to re-enter Westview. One theory is that this could be Reed Richards, i.e. Mr. Fantastic, and we do know that there is a Fantastic Four movie in this Marvel phase due to release in 2023. So this would be a really good time to start to introduce some of those characters. Darcy calls the Westview anomaly the Hex because it's a hexagon, but this also aligns with it being a spell cast by a witch. They also clarify for the audience that the amount of power it would take to build a solid universe is well beyond what we know Wanda can do. This highlights that she can't be the only one behind this, but it's strange that director Hayward is so willing to believe that she is. It's almost like he's trying to misdirect. Why is Monica so averse to talking about Captain Marvel? Is it because in Maria's final years of life, Carol wasn't even on Earth? We didn't see Captain Marvel return until just after the first snap. Nobody but Fury had even heard of her, which feels like a big betrayal to Monica. Or it could be something we don't know. It could be that Carol actually tried to give Maria powers in the last couple of years of her life, which is what caused the cancer to come back due to the radiation. I think we're still a bit in the dark on this. Then we see the clothes that Monica was wearing when she was blasted out of the anomaly. If Wanda is rewriting reality inside, but when things come outside, they stay the same, so for example, the clothes staying in that 70s style, does that mean that Vision can come out alive? Or that Wiccan and Speed can come out exactly as they are, despite being created inside that bubble? Then we see Norm be woken up by Vision. Now, it might be a subtle plot hole, but this was actually referred to in the notes on the board last episode. Norm says, "She's in my head," and we all assume this is Wanda, but it could easily be Agnes. The most interesting thing to me is that Norm is in pain because his dad is sick. Could it be that these control powers actually work better on those who are grieving or in pain? And that might be why they don't work so well on children, because children don't understand grief in the same way that adults do. But if Vision has this power to take everyone in and out of the mindset, could he just go around and wake everyone up? Wanda tries to subliminally control her children in the same way that she does with Vision. She tries to tell them that it's Monday, not Saturday, and that's why Vision is at work. But when that doesn't work, she has to then try other ways of explaining this to them. This just confirms that they are real and not being controlled by Wanda. We also still have no idea at this point why she's actually broadcasting. Then director Hayward tries to kill Wanda, which seems like a sensible move considering his priorities. When Wanda breaches the wall, her Sokovian accent and normal Scarlet Witch clothes are back. Why don't these stay as her 80s clothes, as Monica's did when she was thrown through the wall? And why is it nighttime outside while it's daytime inside the anomaly? Is it because Wanda has control of the small reality around her and she's just warping that perception, but everything else is being changed permanently by somebody with much stronger powers? Then we get the Lagos commercial, which is a reference to the time that Wanda accidentally blew up a building whilst on a mission to hunt down Crossbones. The tagline is, "For when you make a mess you didn't mean to," which is exactly what happened on that mission for Wanda. This moment in Lagos is what started Wanda's spiral into thinking that maybe she was the bad guy. We then see the original mailman, and it's really comforting to know that he isn't dead. And he says, "Your mom won't let him get far," when referencing Sparky. But actually, that's a reflection on how Wanda won't let anybody out of her sight in Westview. I have a theory that Agnes was the one who planted Sparky in the first place for her own personal gain. Initially, this is what forces the children to age up from 5 to 10 to a responsible dog-owning age. I think she then killed Sparky to persuade the kids to age up again out of their grief. I think for some reason she needs them to be adults. And maybe this is because you can't control children and she needs to be able to control them, or it could be that they need to be adults before she can start to drain Wanda of her magic. But what Agnes couldn't have predicted is that Wanda tries to convince the kids that grief is okay, especially when Wanda is so determined to avoid her own grief. The twins appear to know that Wanda can fix death. Do they know that Vision is dead? She proceeds to tell them that death is forever, even though Vision is dead and he is stood right there. It could be that she's starting to process her grief, which is why whoever is controlling this throws the spanner in the works at the end. Wanda and Vision argue, and Vision says that Wanda can't control him. But Wanda thinks she can and starts the credits rolling. As the kitchen door slams, we jump to our aspect ratio and see Vision's red face. Now, if this is our reality, why is it not Vision's caved-in head? We've never seen Vision this angry, ever. It could be because he's really scared, or it could be something that S.W.O.R.D. have done to him in their attempt to weaponize him. Then we flip back to S.W.O.R.D., where we're actually hearing the breach noise and seeing people running around. I think this is not because somebody has come out, but more likely because somebody's gone in. We then see Evan Peters at the door, who played Quicksilver in the X-Men series. This is not Aaron Johnson, who played Quicksilver in the MCU, and who Wanda would recognise as her brother. This could have huge implications if it means the whole X-Men world is now canon in the MCU. But I don't think that's the case. My main reason for thinking that is because we know our universe exists in the MCU because of little references like Point Break and The Wizard of Oz. And this is a bit rogue, but it is feasible that they have the X-Men movies and Wanda remembers Evan Peters as Quicksilver, which Pietro was never referred to in the MCU. And this Quicksilver would have had the same powers as her brother. Did the person who's controlling this whole thing have to bring in Evan Peters from the outside? This could be why we hear the breach noise. It's clear that he was brought in as a distraction from the moment that Wanda and Vision were finally starting to find some common ground, and Wanda actually admitted she doesn't know how this started. Like I said, there were so many things that happened in that episode, and picking apart every Easter egg would have been a way longer video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any other theories, let me know. As always, I'm really excited to see episode 6, and I'll be back here next week to do a breakdown of that one. Look at him looking at you. That was rude. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that subscribe button, hit like, and hit the bell for notifications.